Welcome to Crime Unmasked. Between 1989 and 1990, the sprawling, sun-drenched interstate highways of Central Florida concealed a very dark reality. To motorists passing through, Interstate 75 looked like any other long American road. But as night fell and the Central Florida fog rolled in, these lonely stretches of asphalt became a hunting ground. In late November 1989, a 51-year-old missionary named Richard Mallory vanished without a trace. Days later, his abandoned vehicle was discovered near Daytona Beach. Soon after, his body was uncovered in a remote, wooded swamp nearby. He had been fatally shot multiple times at close range, and his valuables were gone. Police initially viewed it as an isolated tragedy. They were terribly wrong. Over the next 6 months, the bodies of 6 more middle-aged men were discovered in secluded wooded areas along Florida's highways. David Spears, Charles Carskadden, Peter Seams, Eugene Drive, Charles Humphreys, and Walter Antonio. Each victim was traveling alone, each had picked up a hitchhiker, and each met the exact same violent end. Their vehicles were found abandoned miles away from their bodies, stripped of valuables. Florida law enforcement agencies faced a nightmare scenario, an active serial killer stalking the highways. State police set up task forces and began profiling the perpetrator. Based on classic criminological models of the era, investigators were convinced they were hunting a violent, seasoned male ex-convict. They assumed only a physically imposing, seasoned outlaw could overpower and execute 7 strong men. But the killer completely defied the FBI's established behavioral profiles. The predator stalking Interstate 75 was not a towering male drifter. It was a lone female hitchhiker named Aileen Wuornos. Operating right out in the open, Wuornos used her perceived vulnerability as a trap. When solitary men pulled over to offer her a ride, they unknowingly let a lethal predator into their passenger seat. To understand how Wuornos became America's most infamous female serial killer, one must look into her harrowing past. Born in 1956, her early life was defined by extreme instability, severe childhood trauma, and abandonment. By her teenage years, she was surviving alone on the streets, living in rundown roadside motels, and operating entirely along the dangerous margins of society. Wuornos managed to evade capture for months because female serial killers were considered a statistical impossibility. However, her undoing came through basic forensic police work. In July 1990, detectives began tracking items belonging to the victims that had been sold at local pawn shops. Thumbprints left on pawn shop receipts matched Aileen Wuornos' existing criminal record. The mystery killer finally had a name. In January 1991, undercover officers located Wuornos at a biker bar in Volusia County. Under intense police questioning, and following recorded phone calls from her former companion, Wuornos finally confessed to all 7 homicides. The public was absolutely stunned. The revelation that a single female hitchhiker was behind Florida's most terrifying murder spree challenged everything the nation thought it knew about violent crime. During her highly publicized trial, Wuornos vigorously claimed she acted entirely in self-defense. She testified that every single victim had attempted to inflict extreme harm on her, forcing her to fight for her life. But prosecutors presented damning forensic evidence: victims shot in the back, clean crime scenes, and the calculated robbery of personal belongings. Juries saw a cold, methodical pattern of predatory murder. Aileen Wuornos was convicted and received 6 death sentences. She was executed by lethal injection in October 2002. Her case remains one of the most intensely debated subjects in modern criminology. Was she a purely calculating predator, or a deeply tragic victim pushed to the absolute brink of human endurance? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe to Crime Unmasked and step into the shadows, where secrets are finally exposed.